The war room reeked of tension. Floating above the obsidian conference table was a rotating hologram of the Kvash 9 jungle moon, dense green veins, geothermal lines, and blinking red Zorvani outposts scattered like cancerous cells. Dozens of alien leaders sat in silence, antennae twitching, tongues flicking, fur bristling. And then Earth spoke. "We're sending one." The pause that followed was suffocating. "One division?" asked the Vrokan admiral, his translucent throat pulsing with disbelief. "No. One man," the human envoy clarified. He didn't flinch. "Codename Echo 1. Gasps. A claw slammed the table. "You mock us," growled General Xyartal of the Zorvani Imperium, his 6 crimson eyes narrowing. "We've crushed 12 planets this year. We demanded Earth's allegiance. And you send a scout?" "He's not a scout," the human replied coldly. "He's a solution." Xyartal bared his fangs. "You people are cowards." Night fell like ink across Kvash 9. Elias Rain crouched inside the crater of a dried thermal vent, dirt smeared across his armored visor. The drop pod behind him hissed quietly, already half sunken into the swamp. No beacons. No transponders. No reinforcements. Just one man, crouched in a forest that didn't want him alive. The jungle was alive with sounds, clicks, chirps, low groans from unseen creatures. But Elias didn't flinch. His heartbeat was steady. The visor's HUD scanned the area, Zorvani patrols at 0.9 clicks northwest. 6 soldiers. Thermal signatures confirmed. Their route would take them directly past him in less than 5 minutes. He whispered, "Showtime." The knife slid from his boot sheath, silent as a falling feather. Zorvani Unit Theta 12 was bored. "Just a sweep," one grunted. "Nothing here but dirt and bugs." Their commander snapped his mandibles. "Orders are orders. The Imperium doesn't pay us to complain." The jungle swallowed their conversation. They didn't see the tripwire between 2 roots. They didn't hear the shift in the wind. They noticed too late the faint gleam of metal behind the leaves. The first soldier vanished, throat opened by a clean slice. No sound. The second turned, arm raised, only to be pulled backward into the underbrush with a gurgling scream. Panic bloomed. Plasma rifles fired blindly. A third was caught mid-turn, a blade buried in the soft gap between neck segments. 2 remained. They bolted. One tripped on a freshly laid vine snare, his legs crushed by a falling spike log. The last tried to signal command. He never got the chance. Elias stepped into view, mud-streaked armor, visor reflecting the soldier's terrified face. The human moved with unnatural speed. The knife flashed once. Silence. Back at the Zorvani field base, the transmission from Theta 12 went dead. General Xyartal received the report in silence. "No survivors?" The officer shook his scaled head. "Sir, they were mutilated. And there was a message." He handed the datapad over. On it was a still image from a recon drone. 6 helmets arranged in a semicircle. In the middle, a scorched tree trunk carved with words in clean Terran script. "I see you." Xyartal crushed the datapad in his fist. Miles away, Elias wiped the blade clean and sheathed it. His armor's AI blinked status, threats eliminated. Pulse steady. Cloak recharging. He pulled a small hollow frame from his chest pocket. The image flickered to life, him and a little girl standing on a colony balcony, stars behind them. She was smiling, missing a tooth, holding a stuffed fox. "Still with me, Lyra?" he whispered. The jungle offered no answer, only wind. He stood and moved again, blending with the shadows. This was only the beginning. He hadn't come for battle. He came to make them fear. In the Galactic Accord's orbiting command carrier, disbelief hung heavy. "They only sent him?" An insectoid ambassador buzzed. "He's a myth," muttered another. "Earth's shadow operatives were rumors. Ghost stories for insurgents." The human ambassador, still seated calmly, adjusted his cuffs. "Now they're your reality." 2 days later, Zorvani Command received another update. Fuel Depot 7G was destroyed, silent infiltration, charges placed with surgical precision. Entire fleet grounded. Nearby patrol units reported seeing nothing, but sensors picked up a human biosignature, for 3 seconds. A soldier was found, still breathing, tied to a tree with his own armor plating. Scratched into his chest plate were the words, "One of me is enough." General Xyartal called an emergency council. "This is psychological warfare," he snarled. "Primitive. Dishonorable." His adjutant hesitated. "Permission to speak freely, General?" "Granted." "What if Earth was right?" The room fell silent. "What if they didn't send one man because they're cowards, but because he's all they need?" Elias Rain moved silently through the undergrowth. No heavy boots. No digital trails. Just one man. He knelt by the edge of a cliff, overlooking a Zorvani transport yard. Rows of vehicles unguarded. Weak points. Timers ticking. His AI pinged, explosives synced. Extraction route planned. Calm silence engaged. Elias exhaled. This wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about message. He watched the convoy erupt into flame and smoke. The jungle lit red. Alarms blared in the distance. Zorvani voices shouted. He smiled, just a little. They weren't afraid yet. But they would be. The Zorvani didn't sleep anymore. On Kvash 9, nights had become a slow-motion panic, flares popping like angry stars, searchlights slicing through rain, patrols marching in tighter clusters, weapons held a fraction too high. The jungle answered with nothing but damp air and distant animal calls, as if it enjoyed watching soldiers unravel. Elias Rain watched from a canopy platform he built using braided vine and scavenged struts. He lay flat, a smear of shadow among leaves, while below him a squad of 8 Zorvani walked the perimeter of Fuel Depot 7G's ruins. Their boots squelched in ash and blackened mud. They'd come to inspect what he had already taken from them, confidence. His visor mapped their patterns. Every 30 seconds, the commander looked up, not at the sky, but into the trees. Good. He was learning. Elias tapped his throat mic. No response. He wasn't calling home. He wasn't asking for applause. He was counting. 3, 2, 1. A charge detonated half a kilometer away, small, precise. Not to destroy anything important, just loud enough to turn heads. The squad spun as one, rifles snapping toward the noise. Their discipline held, but their breathing didn't. Elias could see it in the subtle rise and fall of their armored chests. He didn't kill them. Not yet. He let them feel the trap closing, then slid off his perch and vanished into the wet dark like a thought you can't remember but can't stop chasing. At Zorvani Forward Command, General Xyartal stood before a tactical holomap with his claws hooked behind his back. The red icons representing his assets were shrinking by the hour, not because of pitched battles, but because of something worse, unpredictability. A junior officer approached, throat sacs fluttering with nerves. "General, another convoy was hit." Xyartal didn't turn. "How many attackers?" The officer hesitated. "We believe, 1. A low hiss escaped the general's mandibles. "Believe? You do not believe on a battlefield. You confirm." "We have sensor logs, sir." 1 biosignature. "It appears, strikes, then disappears." "Our drones lose lock almost immediately." Xyartal's voice sharpened. "So our technology is blind, and our soldiers are dying to a phantom." "Respectfully, General." Xyartal whirled. His 6 eyes pinned the officer like nails. "There is no phantom. There is meat. There is bone. There is fear. And you will purge it." The officer swallowed. "Yes, General." As the subordinate backed away, Xyartal leaned close to the map. He studied the pattern of losses, fuel depots, relay towers, supply caches. It wasn't random destruction. It was pressure on arteries. Whoever the human was, he understood how an army bled. Xyartal tapped the jungle moon's northern ridge. He's funneling us, he muttered. He wants us angry. He wants us clumsy. He smiled then, thin and cruel. Good. Elias moved through a drainage culvert beneath a collapsed communications hub, water up to his shins, insects clinging to his armor seams. The air stank of algae and decay. Above him, Zorvani search teams passed, their voices distorted through concrete. Spread out. Thermal sweep. Keep distance. Distance? From what? From the human. The word carried weight now. Not an insult. Not a joke. A warning. Elias paused beneath a cracked maintenance hatch and listened as their footsteps faded. He climbed out, careful, soundless, and crouched beside the broken remains of the relay tower. Inside its gutted cabinet, his earlier work was still intact, wires rerouted, components cannibalized, a small device blinking patiently like a heartbeat. He connected a cable from his wrist port. The visor filled with scrolling Zorvani code. He wasn't a hacker by hobby. He was trained for this. Years of simulations, dead drop exercises, and long nights being told that the cleanest victory was the one the enemy couldn't explain. A warning flashed, encryption shift detected. Cute, Elias whispered. He bypassed it anyway. The Zorvani comnet opened like a door that thought it was locked. Elias inserted a loop transmission into their priority channel, an automated pulse that would trigger whenever command sent an alert. He chose the message carefully, not loud, not dramatic. Something that would get under the armor. A voice, distorted and calm. You're looking the wrong way. He unplugged, sealed the panel, and left a second gift, a Zorvani unit patch pinned to the metal with a Terran combat blade. He wasn't just stealing bandwidth. He was planting doubt. On the Galactic Accords carrier, the War Council watched new footage on a holoscreen. Grainy recon, shaky angles, the kind of video that never captured the whole truth, just enough to make it worse. A Zorvani squad ran through a ravine, chasing a signal. The camera drone followed from above. The squad reached a narrow pass. Then the world turned white. A wall of fire rolled down the ravine as incendiary gel ignited from hidden reservoirs. Armor glowed. Shadows screamed. The drone's feed overloaded, then returned in time to show only steaming rock and silence. An aquatic delegate shuddered, membranes rippling. That was a kill corridor. A Vroken admiral clicked his beak nervously. He built that alone? The human ambassador remained still. Yes. A smaller alien, one of the Sealan, asked softly. Why is he doing this? Why not join us openly? The ambassador's eyes didn't leave the screen. Because the mission isn't to impress you. It's to make them collapse. Another council member leaned forward. Earth could send fleets. Why risk everything on a single operator? The human finally looked up. Because fleets start wars. One soldier ends them. Elias crouched at the edge of a supply depot's perimeter fence. The facility pulsed with activity now, more guards, heavier turrets, drones circling like hungry insects. They were hardening, adapting. Good. It meant the pain was reaching the right nerves. His AI displayed probability arcs and patrol windows. Success wasn't a question. Survival was. A memory surfaced, uninvited, sharp. Luna 5 colony. Bright artificial sunlight. His sister Lyra running across the corridor with that ridiculous stuffed fox. She'd been laughing, shouting something he couldn't quite hear over the memory's distortion. Then alarms. The sky turning wrong. Zorvani ships in orbit, cold geometry against the stars. The impact shockwave buckling the habitat ring. People screaming through comms. Lyra's voice, suddenly close. Eli! The memory snapped. Elias steadied his breath until the tremor in his hands vanished. He didn't indulge grief on mission time. He used it. Lyra! He murmured. I'm here. He slipped beneath the fence through a gap he'd cut hours earlier and crawled through mud toward a row of fuel canisters. He placed microcharges with careful spacing, just enough to chain react, not enough to crater the whole ground and give them a clean explanation. He wanted confusion, not closure. As he worked, A Zorvani guard paused near his position, antennae twitching. The alien sniffed the air, then muttered into his calm bead. I heard something. Elias froze, breath held, body pressed into the earth. The guard stepped closer. Another stride and the alien would see the faint outline of a man where no man should be. Then the guard's comm crackled. A calm voice spoke through the channel, Elias's planted loop activating. You're looking the wrong way. The guard jerked around, startled, and shouted. Who said that? Elias slid away as the Zorvani turned in circles, suddenly unsure of the jungle, the facility, even his own ears. It started with whispers. Then graffiti. Then the fear set in. In Zorvani trenches, soldiers no longer traded war stories. They exchanged rumors, tales of the earth-born ghost who walked through walls, turned machines against their masters, and left no tracks. Some claimed he didn't sleep. Others said he wasn't real at all, just a psychological trick played by the Galactic Accord. But then came the images. A field camera captured a figure kneeling beside a smoking wreck, helmet off, blood on his jaw, eyes locked on the lens. The frame lasted 3 seconds before the system fried. 3 seconds was enough. The name Elias Rain spread across military channels like a virus. Zorvani morale wavered. In the western jungles of Kvash 9, a full battalion refused to leave their base after dusk. Another platoon detonated their own supplies by accident, spooked by a motion ping that turned out to be a bird. Command silenced the reports, but rumors moved faster than orders. And always, the pattern repeated. Fuel lines cut. Supply crates missing. Soldiers gone, no blood, no noise, just empty armor and a sense of being watched. In a bunker deep beneath the moon's northern ridge, General HFY loomed over a holotable. The map before him pulsed with alerts, red dots vanishing one after another. His second-in-command, Colonel Raxon, kept his voice low. We've increased patrol density by 40%. Deployed aerial drones. Reinforced the perimeter fences. Still, the attacks persist. HFY's eyes burned. Because he's not attacking. He's infiltrating. He's infecting. With respect, General, Raxon offered carefully. Perhaps it's time we treat this not as a manhunt, but as war against a doctrine. He's rewriting our own fear against us. HFY sneered. No. He is not doctrine. He is meat. He stabbed a clawed finger into the map. And tonight he dies. That night, a convoy rolled across Ridge Path 7, 4 trucks, 2 scout speeders, and a rear guard of armored walkers. All eyes scanned the trees. Spotlights rotated in perfect sync. The comms buzzed with overlapping status checks. No one noticed the bird. It was small, mechanical, and hovering just above the tree line, relaying video to a figure lying prone on a mossy slope half a mile east. Elias adjusted the magnification on his visor. The convoy was armored. The rear truck held fuel. The third, heavy shielding, likely command cargo. He didn't move yet. He waited. His AI pinged, drone sweep inbound, 45 seconds. Too soon. He tapped into the convoy's encrypted comms, channels he'd already compromised. He sent a simple data spike, a command loop that caused the second scout speeder to report a hostile thermal bloom, 10 meters ahead. The front half of the convoy halted. The walkers turned. The spotlight swept forward. And Elias moved. A single shot burst from his suppressed rifle. The front guard slumped forward, neural disruptor bolt searing through helmet and brainstem. The second was gone before he turned. The third pulled his trigger just as a concussive grenade landed at his feet. By the time the dust settled, 3 Zorvani lay dead, 1 truck overturned, and the comms were shrieking in every direction. From the shadows, Elias spoke into their open frequency. Wrong direction again. Panic surged. Orders clashed. Soldiers fired into trees. He left before they realized he was never there. At a forward Accord outpost, soldiers watched the drone footage in silence. The recording ended with a flaming wreck, a ghost-like silhouette walking away from the smoke, his shadow long against the fire. One of the troopers, A young Martin with scaled fingers exhaled slowly. He's alone? The human commander beside him nodded. He likes it that way. Another alien leaned forward. Do we know what Earth did to him? The commander paused. They let him bury his dead. Then trained him to bury his enemies. The myth was cemented days later, when a Zorvani field commander returned to his quarters to find his desk rearranged. Not looted, just touched. On the center console sat a Terran MRE wrapper. Next to it, a datapad replaying a loop of Elias's face. Calm. Tired. Covered in soot. He looked into the lens and said, Still think you're winning? No explosives. No blood. Just that. The commander resigned his post within the hour. General Xyartal had seen enough. He gathered his elite, a dozen warborn assassins known as the Black Talons. Genetically enhanced, fear-resistant, trained on death worlds. They'd never lost a hunt. Find him, the general ordered, and bring back whatever is left. Elias knew they were coming. The signs were different this time. No careless patrols, no sloppy defense grids. The Talons didn't talk. They didn't panic. They didn't leave tracks. But Elias didn't need signs. He set the arena himself. A ravine with narrow walls, lined with sonic mines and cloaked netting. A fallback tunnel behind, should he need to vanish. And bait, an open case of Zorvani weapons and a burning helmet, placed just so. He didn't wait long. The first Talon entered silent as vapor. The mine under his foot clicked once. That was enough. Sonic burst. Instant rupture of inner ear, followed by disorientation. The second Talon tried to leap forward, only to trigger a tripwire that sent a micro-flash bomb into his visor. Blinded. Elias dropped from above, knives drawn. The third Talon actually blocked his strike, but not the second. It wasn't clean. It wasn't quiet. By the end, only two remained, and they retreated. Elias didn't chase them. He wanted survivors. Later that night, in a makeshift Zorvani camp, the two Talons stumbled in, one missing a hand, the other shaking despite blood suppressants. Xyartal approached them slowly. Report. Mather spoke. He growled. What did you see? The one with the torn visor finally whispered. Not a man. The second nodded slowly. He's not fighting to survive. He fights like he's already dead. Elias sat beneath the roots of a massive tree, bandaging a gash on his thigh. His fingers moved precisely, emotionless. The bandage was tight. Blood flow slowed. He checked his gear. 73 rounds. 2 thermals. 1 charge left. A cracked blade. He breathed out. Then pulled the holoframe from his chest plate. Lyra. Smiling again. Her voice wasn't in the frame, but he remembered what she sounded like. What she said, right before the sky cracked open. You said humans never run. No, he whispered. We don't. He slid the frame back into place and stood. The Talons were beaten. The general was next. Rain fell in sheets over the southern ridge of Kvash 9, thick enough to drown the stars. Elias Rain stood at the edge of a crumbling overlook, his visor cracked, one eye exposed to the cold. Below him sat the launch facility, Zorvani engineering at its most brutal. Concrete domes. Anti-air turrets. Shield pylons flickering from overuse. And in the center, the warhead. A planetary suppression missile, designed to end sieges in seconds. Its target wasn't Kvash 9. It was the Accord fleet in orbit. If launched, it would punch a hole through their center line, and Earth would be next. This wasn't just another strike. This was the endgame. Inside the command chamber, General Xyartal stood at the terminal, his claws tapping out final launch sequences. Technicians scrambled around him, their pace frantic, their eyes flicking to the outer perimeter displays where systems had started to fail. Security towers offline. Camera feeds dead. Motion sensors glitching. They said nothing. Xyartal did. He's here. Elias moved like a shadow through the outer trench. His cloak was torn. Blood leaked from his side, old and thick. Every motion burned. But none of it mattered. He wasn't here to survive. He planted the last charge against the fusion coolant line and whispered, "One more." The AI responded, barely audible. "Detonation will destabilize the core in 7 minutes. Recommend immediate extraction." Elias shook his head. "No time." A Zorvani patrol spotted him halfway to the main gate. 4 soldiers opened fire. Bolts sizzled through the mist. Elias dropped low, rolled, returned fire with short, calculated bursts. 3 went down. The 4th fled, only to trigger a mine he hadn't noticed. Elias didn't look back. He climbed the facility wall using embedded blade grips and ducked beneath the auto turret's arc inside the launch building. Klaxons began to scream. He was no longer a myth. He was present. Real. And unstoppable. General Xyartal watched from the upper platform as Rain emerged from the corridor, smoke curling behind him, rifle lowered, chest heaving. The soldiers aimed. "Stand down," Xyartal ordered. They hesitated. "I said stand down." The guns dropped. Only the 2 of them remained. A silence fell between them. Thick. Unspoken. Then Xyartal spoke. "You are alone." Elias nodded. "You've cost me 3 battalions. 7 bases. A month's momentum. All by yourself?" The general's voice was calm now. Measured. "Why?" Elias replied. "Because you killed my sister." Xyartal blinked once. "Luna 5? Elias nodded. "She was 7. The general's jaw flexed. "That was war." "No," Elias said. "That was cowardice." They moved at the same moment. Xyartal lunged forward, claws sweeping wide. Elias ducked, pivoted, landed a strike to the ribs. The general grunted but didn't fall. He slammed Elias against the bulkhead, the wall denting with the impact. Blood spilled from Elias's lip. He retaliated, knee to gut, elbow to throat. Xyartal staggered back, then charged. They collided again, fists, claws, blades. No clean moves. No elegance. Just violence. Rain drove his blade into the general's leg, twisting, yanking it free. Xyartal howled, slammed Elias against the control panel, trying to crush his windpipe. Elias reached for his belt. Pulled the final shock rod. Jammed it against the alien's neck. Electricity screamed through the chamber. Xyartal dropped. Breathing ragged. Body twitching. Elias stood over him. Bloodied. Trembling. But standing. The countdown on the warhead read 1 minute and 42 seconds. He looked at the general, who wheezed on the floor. "I should kill you." "You should," Xyartal rasped. "But you want to be feared," Elias said. "So live with it." He slammed the override code into the terminal, one he'd stolen from a previous officer's implant days ago. The launch cycle froze. Command authority accepted. He turned toward the emergency hatch. The AI blinked, explosion imminent. Elias ran. Down the metal corridor. Through smoke. Past bodies. He reached the side hatch, leapt down into the scaffolding as flames erupted from the coolant line he'd sabotaged. The shockwave knocked him into a support beam. His shoulder popped. He gritted his teeth, rolled to the floor, dragging himself toward the exit chute. He could feel the fire licking at his heels. Hours passed. The Accord fleet watched as Kvash 9's eastern hemisphere lit up like a dying sun. One of their officers whispered, "What the hell happened down there?" Another, scanning the blast radius, replied, "The missile's gone. The facility's leveled. Entire regions burning." The commander frowned. "Any sign of the human?" "None." 2 days later, deep in a jungle ravine untouched by fire, a scavenger drone picked up a faint heat signature. It hovered down. Found a boot print in the mud. A discarded Terran combat knife. No body. No comms. Just a carved message into the trunk of a nearby tree. "Next time, don't wake a human." Back on Earth, no announcement was made. No medals. No interviews. Just a file marked Classified Echo 1, moved to cold storage. But in the outer colonies, in alien bars, on Accord ships and remote moons, a new phrase passed between soldiers when things got bad. What would one human do? And the answer was always the same. Exactly what he had to.